Reasons why kindness can destroy your life. Have you ever felt that your kindness goes unnoticed or worse, is taken for granted? If so, you are not alone. In today's world, genuine generosity is often unrecognized or met with indifference. We were raised to put others' needs above our own. Since childhood we've heard share, help, give. And so we grow up with the desire to do good. But what if our goodwill turns against us? What if people start seeing us as an inexhaustible source of help and support? In the modern world, this is a harsh truth. Sometimes the more we give, the less we receive. And it's not just about time or money, but also our energy and peace of mind. Stoicism teaches us to find balance and self-preservation, but we often find that today we are going to open a new perspective on the excess of kindness and the 4 Stoic rules that can help find harmony. So if you've ever felt that your help is unappreciated, this video is for you. The difficulty of being kind in the modern world. Have you noticed how in such a fast-paced world, being kind seems to be an increasingly difficult task? Generosity, which should be natural and appreciated, often goes unnoticed or is met with indifference. This creates an internal dilemma. Do we continue to do good even when it seems like no one notices? Or do we start to question if it's worth it? Imagine this. You go out of your way to help someone, whether with a small gesture or a great sacrifice. The response you receive may be a nod, a hurried thank you, or worse, a silence that echoes as if your act of kindness was just another obligation to be fulfilled. This can leave anyone feeling demotivated. But here's the thing, should true kindness depend on recognition? After all, being kind isn't about the return, but about the attitude, about choosing to do good even when the world doesn't seem to care. Of course, it's frustrating when our generosity is taken for granted, but it's at this moment that the essence of kindness is truly tested. Have you ever felt like this, as if your kindness was being exploited? Maybe this is a sign for us to reflect on our motivations. Being kind in the hope of getting something in return, be it gratitude or recognition, is a dangerous path that can lead to frustration. But when kindness is genuine, it becomes a reflection of who we are, not what we want to gain. So how do we balance this internal conflict? The answer may lie in understanding that true kindness is an act of courage. In a world where people are increasingly self-centered, continuing to be kind is a challenge, but also a powerful choice. Every gesture, no matter how small, can be a seed planted in fertile soil, even if the fruits do not appear immediately. Therefore, the next time you feel that your generosity has been ignored, remember that kindness, even when silent, resonates in ways we may never fully comprehend. And in the end, it is this resilience in doing good, even without applause, that truly makes a difference. Excessive kindness can make you seem weak. Have you ever heard the saying, "He who bends too much shows too much"? It's a crude way of saying that sometimes excessive kindness can be misinterpreted. Instead of being seen as a virtue, it can be perceived as a sign of weakness. This is especially true in the modern world, where competitiveness and assertiveness are often exalted. Imagine a person who is always willing to help, to give in, to put others' needs above their own. At first, this may be admirable, but over time, this constant kindness may start to be seen as a vulnerability. People may begin to think that this person is easily manipulated, that they can be exploited without resistance. And this is where the lack of respect begins to emerge. The problem is that when we are excessively kind, we risk letting others take our kindness for granted. Worse, they may start to believe that we lack firmness or that our opinion can be easily ignored. And this, over time, wears down not only our self-esteem, but also how we are perceived in social and professional environments. But how can we avoid falling into this trap? The answer lies in establishing clear boundaries. Kindness does not mean allowing others to cross our boundaries. On the contrary, A true demonstration of strength is being able to say no when necessary to protect our personal and emotional space. This does not diminish our generosity. On the contrary, it strengthens it. Setting boundaries is not about being rude or insensitive. It's a way of showing the world that while we are kind, we are also strong and secure in who we are. When we balance our kindness with assertiveness, the people around us begin to respect us more. They realize that our kindness is a conscious choice, not a weakness to be exploited. Therefore, if you feel that your kindness is being mistaken for weakness, it may be time to reassess your boundaries. It's not about changing who you are, but about ensuring that your kindness is valued and respected. After all, being kind is not being weak. It is being human, and humanity in its essence is strong. Unrealistic expectations and disappointment. How many times have you offered help, expecting something in return, even if it was just a simple thank you, and ended up disappointed? This is a common trap. We create expectations regarding our acts of kindness, believing that they will be reciprocated in the same way. However, when the response is not what we expected, disappointment arises, bringing with it a feeling of frustration and even hurt. This cycle of expectations and disappointments can be extremely draining. It's natural to want to be recognized for what we do, but the problem begins when we place our happiness and well-being in the hands of others' reactions. The expectation that our gesture will be valued or rewarded creates an emotional vulnerability that often results in pain. This is where Stoicism can be a powerful tool. This ancient philosophy teaches us that suffering does not come from the events themselves, but from how we interpret them. When offering help, it is important to do so with the pure intention of being useful, without expecting anything in return. When we have no expectations, there is no room for disappointment. Stoicism invites us to focus on what is within our control, our actions and intentions. What others do or don't do, how they respond or not, is beyond our control. Therefore, by practicing detachment from expectations, we become emotionally more resilient. The help we offer becomes a genuine expression of who we are, not a means of gaining recognition. This shift in perspective can be liberating. By learning to manage our expectations, we avoid unnecessary suffering and can maintain our inner peace regardless of external reactions. In the end, the true value of helping lies in doing good simply because it reflects our values, not because we expect something in return. So, the next time you extend a hand to help, do it with a light heart, without expectations. Let the act itself be your reward, and you will discover that true satisfaction comes from within, not from the responses you receive. Attracting the wrong people with excessive generosity. Generosity is an admirable virtue, but like everything in life, excess can have unexpected consequences. Have you ever stopped to think that by always being willing to help, you might be attracting the wrong people into your life? Those who are not interested in building a relationship based on respect and reciprocity, but rather in taking advantage of your goodwill. This is an uncomfortable reality, but one that many of us face. When we are generous in an unrestrained manner, we send a message to the world. We are always available, no matter the cost. And while this availability may seem like a positive quality, it can also attract people who see it as an opportunity for exploitation. Instead of seeking a genuine relationship, these people seek only self-benefit, draining our energy and eventually leaving us disillusioned. But how can we avoid falling into this trap? The secret lies in finding a balance in our generosity. Being generous does not mean saying yes to everything and everyone. It means, first and foremost, being selective about where and with whom we invest our time and energy. By establishing clear boundaries, we not only protect ourselves, but also send a signal that our help comes with the expectation of respect and consideration. Healthy relationships are built on a mutual exchange of support and generosity. When you establish balance, you end up attracting people who truly value your help and are willing to reciprocate in a genuine way. These are the people who will be by your side, not only in easy times, but also in challenges, creating a support network that strengthens both sides. Therefore, if you feel that your generosity has attracted the wrong people, it's time to reassess. Ask yourself, am I being generous because I genuinely want to help, or because I'm afraid to say no? Remember that true generosity begins with respect for oneself. By balancing your willingness to help with the protection of your own boundaries, you not only preserve your energy, but also create an environment conducive to attracting the right people into your life. Losing yourself for the needs of others. Have you ever felt so consumed by the needs of others that you suddenly realized you had neglected your own? It's easy to fall into this trap, especially when we are naturally inclined to help. But the danger of getting lost in the demands of others is real. When we constantly put others' needs above our own, we risk neglecting our own essence and losing sight of who we truly are. Imagine a candle that, by lighting the way for others, consumes itself until nothing remains. This is what happens to our energy and well-being when we are always at the disposal of others, but never stop to listen to our inner voice. And the more we distance ourselves from our own needs, the harder it becomes to recognize and meet our own desires and limits. The truth is that to be truly useful to others, we first need to take care of ourselves. It's not selfishness, it's self-sustainability. When we allow ourselves to meet our needs, we recharge our energy and preserve our essence, which enables us to help more genuinely and effectively. Setting healthy boundaries is essential in this process. It is an act of self-love and a way of ensuring that we do not lose ourselves in the midst of others' demands. These boundaries help us maintain the balance between what we give and what we reserve for ourselves, protecting our emotional and mental integrity. Therefore, if you feel like you are getting lost in the needs of others, it's time to stop and reassess. Listen to your inner voice, reconnect with your own needs, and don't be afraid to say no when necessary. Remember, to be a constant source of light, you first need to ensure that your inner flame remains lit. Preserve your essence, and you will find that your ability to help others becomes even more powerful and authentic. The trap of constant giving. Have you ever felt exhausted after giving so much of yourself to others? This is the trap of constant giving, the idea that we must always be available, always ready to help, without considering the impact this has on ourselves. It's easy to fall into this trap, especially when generosity is a central part of our identity. But without moderation, this continuous giving can lead to emotional burnout, leaving us drained and unable to take care of ourselves. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, offers us a valuable perspective on this topic. He reminds us that true generosity should not come at the cost of our well-being. In his letters, Seneca talks about the importance of giving with balance so that our generosity does not become an unsustainable burden. He suggests that when we give, we should also preserve something for ourselves, ensuring that our kindness is sustainable in the long term. This balance is fundamental. By moderating our giving, we manage to maintain our energy and mental health, which allows us to continue being generous without sacrificing our own happiness. Giving with balance means recognizing our limits and respecting them, understanding that we cannot help others if we are exhausted. Therefore, if you feel that you are approaching emotional burnout, it may be time to reconsider how you are practicing your generosity. Remember Seneca's words, giving is important, but it is equally important to take care of yourself. By finding this balance, you not only preserve your energy, but also ensure that your ability to help others is lasting and genuine. After all, true generosity begins with respect for oneself. The suspicion generated by excessive kindness. In a world where cynicism seems to be the norm, excessive kindness often raises suspicions. Acts of kindness that should be celebrated can be met with distrust, as if there were a hidden intention behind each gesture. This creates a paradoxical situation. The more kindness we show, the more people around us may question our intentions. Why does this happen? Perhaps it's because we live in a society where the exchange of favors is common, and generosity without expectations seems rare. People may wonder, why would someone be so kind? What does this person really want? This kind of cynical thinking is the result of numerous disappointments and negative experiences that have shaped the collective perception. In this scenario, Stoicism offers a valuable approach. Instead of giving up kindness in reaction to this distrust, the Stoics teach us to maintain our acts of kindness with transparency and authenticity. This means being kind, not to receive something in return or to manipulate others' perceptions, but simply because it's the right thing to do. When our kindness is genuine, it stands out, even in a cynical environment. Maintaining this stance requires courage. It can be discouraging to see our good intentions met with suspicion, but it is at this moment that the true strength of kindness is revealed. By acting with authenticity and clarity, we let our actions speak for themselves, showing that kindness does not need a hidden motive. It can and should be a direct reflection of our values and character. Therefore, even in a world that may distrust kindness, continue to practice it. Do so transparently, without artifice, and allow your actions to be a beacon of authenticity amid cynicism. Stoicism reminds us that true kindness is not shaken by others' opinions, but remains firm, rooted in integrity and truth. The risk of addiction to overgiving. Have you ever stopped to think that just as we can become addicted to certain harmful behaviors, we can also become addicted to overgiving? Generosity, when not moderated, can turn into a cycle of stress and emotional exhaustion, similar to other addictions like overeating or excessive drinking, which often arise as attempts to fill an internal void. The problem with excessive generosity is that it can create an emotional dependency where we begin to base our self-esteem and well-being on the amount of help we offer others. This can lead to a vicious cycle where the more we give, the more we feel the need to keep giving in the hope of finding meaning or validation. But like any other addiction, this behavior can end up draining us and leaving us emotionally depleted. This is where Stoicism offers a valuable solution: balance and self-restraint. The Stoics teach us that virtue lies in the middle ground and that both excess and scarcity can be harmful. Being generous is a noble quality, but it must be practiced with discernment. We need to learn to give in a balanced way without sacrificing our own well-being in the process. Self-restraint does not mean stopping being generous, but rather being conscious of when and how much to give so that generosity remains healthy and sustainable. This involves the ability to recognize our own limits and respect them, avoiding emotional burnout and preserving our mental health. If you find that you are approaching the limit or that overgiving is starting to negatively affect your life, it's important to reassess your approach. Stoicism reminds us that balance is essential in all things, including generosity. By practicing self-restraint, we can continue to be generous in a healthy way, without falling into the trap of addiction to overgiving. Therefore, keep your generosity, but do so consciously and in balance. This way, you will be protecting not only yourself, but also ensuring that your acts of kindness are lasting and truly meaningful. Problems in unbalanced relationships. In relationships, it's natural to want to help and support those we love. However, when this willingness becomes a constant, a subtle but deep problem can arise: imbalance. Have you noticed how in some relationships it may seem that you are more valued for what you do for others than for who you really are? This is a clear sign of an unbalanced relationship. When the help we offer becomes the center of our interactions, we risk being seen only as a resource, someone who is always available to solve problems or offer support, but whose true essence is not really appreciated. This can lead to a feeling of emptiness and even resentment, because no one wants to be valued only for what they can offer. This type of relationship can be exhausting and unsustainable. Over time, the person who is constantly giving may start to feel that their identity and worth are being reduced to their ability to help. And worse, the other party may become complacent, seeing generosity as something guaranteed, without bothering to reciprocate or nurture the relationship in a fair and balanced way. It is crucial, then, to reflect on the value of genuine relationships. In an authentic connection, both sides are valued for who they are, not just for what they do. Healthy relationships are based on reciprocity, mutual respect, and true appreciation of the person as a whole. To avoid falling into the trap of unbalanced relationships, it's important to establish clear boundaries and cultivate connections where there is a balanced flow of giving and receiving. This not only preserves your energy, but also ensures that you are seen and valued for your true essence, not just for your acts of generosity. Therefore, if you find yourself in relationships where you feel like more of a resource than a person, it's time to reassess. Stoicism teaches us to seek authentic relationships where value is found in presence and essence, not just in utility. Cultivate these bonds, and you will find that true satisfaction in relationships comes from mutual respect and appreciation. Lack of boundaries with loved ones. Setting boundaries is essential in any relationship, but when it comes to close family and friends, this task can become particularly difficult. After all, we want to care for and be present for those we love. However, this emotional closeness can lead us to neglect our own boundaries, leading to emotional and physical burnout that can harm both ourselves and our relationships. Have you ever felt that by always being available to your family or friends, your own needs are put on the back burner? This happens because intimacy often comes with an implicit expectation that we are always ready to help, regardless of the circumstances. And when we don't set boundaries, we risk depleting our internal resources, leaving little or nothing for ourselves. True care, however, is not just about how much we can give, but also about knowing when we need to stop. Setting boundaries with those we love does not mean being less present or less caring. On the contrary, it is an act of respect for ourselves and others. When we value our own limits and resources, we are telling these people that we also value our well-being and that we want to be well so we can continue to offer the best of ourselves. Moreover, by setting clear boundaries, we teach our loved ones to respect our needs and understand that care is a two-way street. This strengthens relationships, creating a healthier and more balanced dynamic where support is mutual and respect is reciprocal. Therefore, if you struggle to set boundaries with your family and close friends, it's time to reflect on what it really means to care. Remember that you can only be a constant source of support if you also take care of yourself. Value your limits and resources, and see how this transforms the quality of your relationships, promoting an environment of mutual respect and care. Underestimating personal time. Have you ever thought about how time is one of the most valuable resources we have? Yet it is also one of the most underestimated. How many times do we find ourselves spending precious hours on activities that bring us no joy, growth, or purpose? The truth is that each passing minute is an opportunity that will never return. Underestimating personal time is a common mistake, especially in an age where we are constantly bombarded by distractions. Social media, commitments that are not really important, and even that procrastination disguised as rest can rob us of what we hold most precious, our time. But how can we reverse this? The key is to live with intention. This means making conscious choices about where and how we invest our time. Ask yourself, Does this activity bring me closer to my goals? Does it bring me peace or joy? If the answer is no, it may be time to reconsider. Remember that time is like a gift we receive daily, and it is up to us to decide how to unwrap it. By valuing each moment, we begin to build a life with more meaning, aligned with what really matters. After all, when we look back, will we be proud of how we spent our time? It's time to reassess our priorities, eliminate what does not add value, and focus on what really matters. Time is limited, but how we use it can make all the difference in our journey. How about starting now? Mastering the art of saying no. Mastering the art of saying no is undoubtedly one of the greatest challenges and, at the same time, one of the most powerful skills we can develop. How many times do we find ourselves saying yes to please others, even when it goes against our own needs or desires? The truth is that every yes we give to something that does not serve us is a silent no to ourselves. Saying no is not just about refusing invitations or commitments. It's about setting clear boundaries that protect our time, energy, and well-being. When we learn to refuse what is not aligned with our values and priorities, we are actually exercising an act of self-care and self-respect. But why is it so difficult to say no? Often, we fear being seen as selfish, cold, or insensitive. However, we need to understand that saying no is actually an act of honesty and authenticity. It's recognizing that we cannot be everywhere, do everything, or please everyone, and that's okay. By being selective with our yeses, we ensure that we are fully present in the choices that truly matter. So how do you begin to master this art? First, it is essential to understand that saying no does not have to be rude or abrupt. We can refuse kindly, explaining our reasons clearly and respectfully. Additionally, it is important to practice empathy, both with ourselves and with others. Remember that by saying no, we are creating space to take better care of ourselves and to dedicate ourselves to what truly moves us. Saying no is ultimately an expression of freedom. It is liberating to be able to choose where and how to invest our time and energy without guilt or regret. By mastering this art, we pave the way for a more authentic life, aligned with our true desires and purposes. It's time to start saying no with confidence, knowing that by doing so we are saying yes to ourselves. Beware of energy vampires. Have you heard of energy vampires? I'm not talking about fictional creatures, but real people who, intentionally or not, drain our emotional and mental energy. These are the people who, after a simple encounter or conversation, leave us exhausted as if they had sucked all our vitality. Identifying and distancing yourself from these vampires is essential to protect your emotional health. These vampires can be anywhere, at work, in the family, among friends. Often they feed on drama, constant criticism, complaints, or excessive demands. Constant proximity to these people can lead us to feel anxiety, stress, and even question our own worth. That's why we need to learn to recognize the signs that our energy is being drained and, more importantly, to set clear boundaries. But how can we do this without feeling guilty or fearing others' reactions? First, it's essential to remember that our energy is a precious and limited resource. We cannot afford to deplete it with people or situations that do not do us any good. Setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness, but of self-care. It's putting our emotional health first without giving up respect for others. Saying no to these energy vampires is an essential step. This may mean reducing the time we spend with them, avoiding certain conversation topics, or even, in more extreme cases, cutting off contact. Remember that we are not obligated to carry the emotional burden of others, especially when it compromises our own peace. Protecting our energy is crucial to maintaining balance and mental clarity. When we distance ourselves from energy vampires, we create space for healthier relationships that nurture and uplift us. Therefore, stay alert and be firm in setting your boundaries. You deserve a life surrounded by people who respect and value your energy, not those who drain it without remorse. Respect for your own space and time. Respecting your own space and time is an act of self-love that we often neglect in the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Amid obligations, commitments, and others' demands, it's easy to forget to reserve moments for yourself, for what truly brings you joy and relaxation. However, this time dedicated to self-care is essential for maintaining balance and mental health. We live in a society that values productivity and being always busy. But the truth is that without quality time to recharge, we end up exhausting ourselves both physically and emotionally. Reserving space in your schedule for yourself is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Think about how you feel after dedicating time to doing something you love, whether it's reading a good book, walking in nature, meditating, or simply sitting in silence with your thoughts. These moments are not just an escape from daily pressures, but also a way to reconnect with who you really are, away from external expectations and demands. And this is not just about relaxing activities, it's about creating a sacred space where you can care for yourself, listen to your needs, and give yourself the attention you deserve. After all, how can we take care of others or face daily challenges if we are not taking care of ourselves first? Therefore, start valuing your own space and time. Set clear boundaries, whether with work, family, or friends, and prioritize these moments of self-care. Don't be afraid to say no when necessary, and remember that you don't need to justify the need for time for yourself. This respect for your space and time is the foundation for a more balanced and healthy life, where you can flourish and feel at peace with yourself. In the end, balance is the key to a full and healthy life, and this includes how we practice generosity. Being generous is an admirable virtue, but when done without wisdom, it can lead to burnout and compromise the quality of our relationships. It's easy to fall into the trap of always wanting to give the most of ourselves to others, whether in terms of time, attention, or resources. However, if we don't know how to measure this generosity, we can end up emptying ourselves, leaving little or nothing for ourselves. And when this happens, not only does our emotional and physical health suffer, but the very generosity loses its value because we begin to give more out of obligation than a genuine desire to contribute. That's why it's crucial to learn to be generous with wisdom. This means knowing and respecting our own limits, ensuring that our offering to others is supported by a solid foundation of self-care and balance. By practicing generosity in a balanced way, we manage to maintain personal well-being and strengthen relationships, offering others the best we have without harming ourselves in the process. Generosity, when balanced, has the power to nourish both the giver and the receiver. Therefore, when cultivating this virtue in your life, remember that the true value of generosity lies in its quality, not its quantity. Be generous, but do so with wisdom, preserving your energy, your resources, and above all, your inner peace. In this way, you will be truly contributing to collective well-being without losing sight of self-care.